I'm Dr. Dasch and I'm a science teacher. Yes, I'm planning to vote in this election. In fact, I've already voted by mail-in ballot. The first election I voted in was the 2000 presidential election with Vice President Al Gore against George Bush. And what I remember so distinctively about it was that was the first time that climate change was the major issue on the ballot. And Al Gore had come out leaps and bounds ahead of George Bush because he had a lot of really impressive data. And then George Bush was able to kind of overcome that and ended up defeating Al Gore in the election. I went to a rally in Portland where I got to hear Al Gore talk. And it was all about climate change in 2000. And it was really interesting to, over the next 20 years, have that still one of the major issues on the ballot that's kind of dividing the two parties. I think there's been a lot of progress made, and I don't think that either party is strictly anti-climate change as much anymore. But it is fascinating that 20 years later we're still having the same issues on the ballot now as we were then. This was right after the Columbine shooting, and so gun control was an issue, but gun control had just been federally mandated so that there were no more semi-automatic assault rifles to be sold. And that was passed under Clinton following Columbine, and then George Bush was vowing to overturn that. So that was another major issue that was on the ballot then that is still on the ballot now. This idea of control about semi-automatic assault-style rifles. So that's another thing that has been 20 years with no real change in either policy or in magnitude. It was a really big deal then, and it's still a really big deal now. Voting is really, really important, especially in primary and local elections, because that's where you really have the most power. The reason we have such extreme candidates in running for office right now is because nobody's showing up for primaries. So if you want better choices, you've got to make them. Find the better choices in the primary and the local elections. Start there. And even if that's all you do politically, that's a really important step. The biggest issue, of course, is the Great Salt Lake. What's really fascinating about the Great Salt Lake is it's no mystery of how to fix it. We know that we need to put more water in the lake, and we know where that water is going. It's getting diverted for irrigation, both in terms of new development and in terms of agriculture. And so it's not a question of what we need to do, it's just a question of whether or not we have the political will to do it. I mean, we need alfalfa. We have to have a local sustainable dairy industry, especially after COVID and the January 6th incident. We need to be able to secure our local food sources. So we can't say no alfalfa, but we've got to do it better, and we've got to do it diverting less water. And we know how to do it. We just need the political will to do it.